All right, let's just dive right into it. What we've got here is the official Form 10Q cover for Oxford Industries. This is for their first quarter of fiscal 2026, and it's basically our roadmap for today.
Now, to the untrained eye, sure, this is just 39 pages of incredibly dense financial jargon. I mean, it's the kind of document that would put most people straight to sleep, right? But definitely not us. We are going to peel back the onion on these numbers today to figure out exactly what is hiding inside this latest SEC filing.
So welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're taking the Q1 2026 financials of the parent company behind massive lifestyle apparel heavyweights. We're talking brands like Tommy Bahama and Lilly Pulitzer, and we're translating all that data into a clear, compelling story that you can actually use.
Here's a quick look at our agenda for today. 1. The big picture. 2. The brand portfolio. 3. How consumers are buying. 4. Capital, debt, and investments. And 5. We're wrapping up with the tariff wildcard.
Okay, starting off with Section 1, the big picture of their Q1 2026 performance.
The contrast right out of the gate is absolutely fascinating. Looking at the top line, total net sales held remarkably steady. They dipped, but only slightly, to $391.4 million in Q1 of 2026 compared to $392.8 million in the exact same period last year. So, on the surface, looks like a perfectly stable ship.
But, to understand the true health of any business, we always have to look past the top-line revenue and dig into the actual net earnings. In Q1 of fiscal 2025, Oxford posted a very healthy $26.1 million in net earnings.
And here is the absolutely crucial point. Fast forward to Q1 of 2026, and those net earnings experienced a pretty dramatic drop. They fell all the way down to just $14.9 million. That is a really stark contrast to that flat revenue we just talked about. It immediately begs the question, where exactly is this business leaking its profit?
Let's move to Section 2, the brand portfolio, to see how the sum of its parts is actually doing.
To figure out who's actually carrying the team here and who might be in a bit of a slump, just look at this massive revenue gap. You've got the star player, Tommy Bahama, generating an incredible $224.6 million in sales. Compare that to the rest of the pack, right? Lilly Pulitzer is sitting at $90.3 million, and then emerging brands and Johnny Was are hovering around $38 million each. It's clear that Oxford is relying tremendously on Tommy Bahama right now.
And honestly, it gets even more revealing when we look at profitability. Tommy Bahama is seriously pulling its weight with over $40 million in EBITDA. Meanwhile, Johnny Was is kind of playing this struggling supporting role right now, posting a negative $1.2 million. So they are actually operating at a loss, which is creating a major drag on the overall net earnings for the whole company.
That takes us to Section 3, taking a closer look at how consumers are actually buying through different distribution channels.
Traditional brick-and-mortar retail still leads the charge here. That makes up 39% of total net sales. That's followed pretty closely by direct-to-consumer e-commerce at 29% and then wholesale at 22%. But wait, I really want you to focus your attention on that fascinating 10% slice of the pie that is dedicated entirely to food and beverage.
This is incredibly unique for an apparel company, right? If we isolate just the Tommy Bahama brand, their restaurants and Marlin bars are a huge driver for them. Food and beverage makes up an impressive 17% of Tommy Bahama's specific net sales. So they aren't just selling you a shirt. They are literally selling you the margarita to go with it. It's a complete lifestyle experience and clearly a really material part of their revenue.
All right, moving right along to Section 4. We're looking at capital, debt, and investments, essentially diving into the balance sheet. Moving beyond just the sales and margins, let's take a look at their revolving credit agreement. Outstanding borrowings reached $143 million in Q1 of 2026. Now, this is a pretty noticeable jump from the $116 million they reported at the end of fiscal 2025. It's not necessarily a massive red flag, but it is definitely a trend we need to unpack.
So, why exactly did that debt increase? Well, the 10Q filing outlines 4 main drivers for us. First, it's those lower net earnings we talked about. Second, just general working capital needs. Third is maintaining those cash dividend payments to their shareholders. But actually, the fourth point is probably the most interesting, a major capital expenditure. They're pouring money into a brand new state-of-the-art distribution center down in Lyons, Georgia. So part of this debt is really a strategic bet on their future efficiency.
And finally, Section 5. We're calling this the tariff wildcard, and it is quite the plot twist.
To really grasp our final piece of the puzzle today, we need to talk about IEEPA tariffs.
These are duties paid on imported goods under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. Now, recently, in a massive decision, the U.S. Supreme Court officially invalidated these specific tariffs. This single legal ruling has entirely shifted the ground beneath major apparel importers like Oxford.
Let's trace the timeline on this, because it's wild. Over fiscal 2025 and Q1 2026, Oxford paid roughly $45 million in these specific tariffs. Then, on February 20th, the Supreme Court drops its ruling. And Oxford? Well, they didn't waste a single second. During Q1, they immediately filed a claim with Customs and Border Protection to get $25 million of that cash refunded in Phase 1.
But of course, here's the catch. Because Oxford maintains very strict conservative accounting practices, they haven't actually recorded this potential influx of cash on their books yet. The exact timeline for when they get this money remains highly uncertain. They filed the claim, sure, but the check isn't in the bank yet, so it isn't showing up in those net earnings we were looking at.
Which leaves us with this final, highly provocative thought. If Oxford suddenly secures a $25 million, or hey, even a $45 million cash injection from these refunds, and if they manage to pull Johnny Was out of its current slump, how drastically could that reshape their entire fiscal 2026 playbook? I mean, the foundation is stable, the star player is clearly performing, and there's a massive regulatory check potentially in the mail. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and as always, keep questioning the numbers